I know it may not seem like it because the plays that we remember are the missed big plays. The Romeo Doubs drop touchdown, the Christian Watson drop touchdown. But this Packers offense has been one of the most explosive in football. It just hasn't been one of the most consistent. If it can find that consistency, and I argue it can and will, this offense can be as good as it wants to be. Plus, former Giants running back Rashad Jennings joins me on the show to talk about the intersection of sports and business, the evolution of Saquon Barkley, all of these too high safety looks and what it means for the run game, which is very important for this week as the Packers head to London to take on the Giants. Expert Tuesday starts right now.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Rashad Jennings on the show today, former NFL running back, former New York Giant running back. He is the co-host of the podcast The Bag with Rashad Jennings and Lindsey McCormick over at Sports Illustrated. Go check that out. They had a great episode with Will Blackman where Will talks about how he was inspired to get into wine by Charles Woodson, two former Packers DBs there. And it's a really cool thing that I think that you'll probably like. Start with that episode and see what you can get to. We're going to get to him, running backs, evolution of the league, all kinds of cool stuff coming up in a little bit. I want to start with something that Dan Orlovsky said on Get Up this morning. And as I was saying that, I went, oh my God, I've become part of the take enterprise, the take machine, the take, I don't know, industrial complex. But the reason I'm bringing it up, because what he said is, by the end of the season, this Packers offense is going to be better, not as good, better than it was last year with Davante Adams. And his point was they're already creating explosives. The run game is one of the best in football. They have an elite quarterback, and this offensive line is just still figuring it out. All of that is true. Well, the factors are true. Can they get to that level? We'll see. Let's rewind, though. You go back to the spring, there were people saying, media people, fans, saying this offense can be better without Davante Adams because it means Aaron Rodgers will have to spread the ball around. It means they will have to commit to the run game. And it means Rodgers will have to play within the confines of the offense rather than just resorting to hero ball with Davante Adams. Now, we're seeing the downside of it on, say, third downs when it's basically third and Randall Cobb or third and Allen Lazard, which, by the way, both worked on Sunday, both worked against Tampa. They have been terrific, those duos. But it hasn't been consistent. They have been explosive. As Orlovsky pointed out, they have one of the most explosive offenses in the league. Depending on where you look, and some people quantify explosive differently, but they are either the league leader or among league leaders in explosive passes and explosives overall. 10-plus yard runs, 20-plus yard passes. They've been near the top of the league all season, and they did it again. Allen Lazard on Sunday, 3 catches of 20-plus on his own. Aaron Jones made a slew of plays where he broke 10-plus yard runs. They're creating explosives in the run game, which they were not doing last year. That in and of itself gives them the potential to be better than they were last year, assuming the passing game finds some consistency. They're creating explosives. That's true. But they're creating explosives Like they're creating 20-yard plays by getting 25 yards. You know, like they're not creating 50-yard plays, 40-yard plays, 60-yard plays. Now it's been 4 weeks and they've played some defenses. By the way, the Vikings designed to not give up big plays. The Bears designed to not give up big plays. The Bucs defense, really good. Did not play really well against the Chiefs, but had been the best defense in football through 3 weeks. And this past week against the Patriots, just a really well-coached defense. You know, Matt LaFleur talked about a play call where he felt like it was the wrong play call. Didn't say specifically it was on Aaron Rodgers, but said he would have liked to have seen that play canned because it was the worst possible play call for the defense that the Patriots were in. Aaron Rodgers has been part of the problem here. Missing throws, missing reads. He's clearly not on the same page with these guys at all times. These RPO screens. The ball on the Dobbs fumble. Terrible throw. The timing has been off. Dobbs and Watson have each botched the timing with Rodgers. I'm putting those together. Those two guys have not been on the same page for those plays. There was a play on Sunday where Rodgers either way overthrew Allen Lazard or Christian Watson did not run the route that Aaron Rodgers thought he was going to run. That's a pretty big deal. But Aaron Rodgers right now is the number one Pro Football Focus graded quarterback on throws of 20 plus yards down the field. Gorgeous play to Big Bob Tunyon. Beautiful, beautiful play to Randall Cobb. Absolutely dimed up Romeo Dobbs on the touchdown that would be. And there are some Redditors out there insisting that actually should have been a touchdown, that tucking the ball in the end, if you're in the end zone, which makes it different than what happened with Dez Bryant, that constitutes a football move. 2 feet and the catch plus the football move of tucking the ball is actually enough. We don't need to go into the conspiracy theory. The moral of the story is gorgeous throw. The Christian Watson drop, gorgeous throw. Now, there was the Christian Watson jet wheel where I did not think that was a great throw, although I thought Christian Watson picked it up late and I think could have. Romeo Dobbs might have made that catch, but it's not a great throw. Aaron Rodgers has been part of the problem for this offense, and he admitted it. Said he needs to play better. He normally doesn't play 2 bad halves. That's true. But go back to last year. Remember, for like half the season, he just couldn't hit a deep ball? Just couldn't find the touch. Through 8 games last year, he was 33rd in deep pass grade by Pro Football Focus. 33rd. Remember how many teams there are? There's 32 teams. He was 33rd. This year, he's first. And in the second half of the season, last year, he was 7th. So he went from not even starter level throwing deep balls to one of the best in the league. We've seen him start slow in years past before. You don't even need to go back to the RELAX season. You don't even need to go back to the run the table season. You just need to go back to literally last year. And that was with Davante Adams. The fact that they're running the ball so effectively and that they have some decisions to make on the offensive line. Is Elton Jenkins best position a guard? Very telling. I think that Matt LaFleur said that they are looking into the right tackle option with Josh Nijman. That I think there's no question in my mind the best 5 includes Josh Nijman right now. In terms of you're just trying to find the best 5 guys. Josh Nijman is one of them. And right now, Elton Jenkins' best position is guard. I think you can make the case, and I continue to make the case that I'd rather see him try and figure it out over the next couple of weeks against some softer opponents, because the best option is to have him be your right tackle, because he's at his best, the best right tackle. He's probably going to play right tackle next year anyway, but you can let him play guard this year and he can play right tackle next year if it's the best thing for the team this season. They're still figuring that stuff out. They were not great run blocking on Sunday. A lot of it was just Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon being awesome. Just dudes being guys. Just guys being dudes. Making people miss. Dragging defenders. Getting extra yards. That's going to be, they're going to be able to run against whoever they want all season. And they're going to stick with the run all season. So then it's a matter of just getting on the same page with these guys, just figuring out the best ways to use them. And I love that they're finding ways to get Christian Watson the ball. That Romeo Doubs is blocking for Christian Watson, and he was the first guy in the end zone to meet Watson. Was so happy for him. These guys are playing for each other. Al Nazard on 4th and 1, the toss play, he's reduced in like a tight end and is out essentially lead blocking, leaks out to lead that play. Selfless player, had 6 catches, over 100 yards. Randall Cobb continues to be the go-to third down guy. And Romeo Doubs is becoming a star in front of our very eyes. It's stuff that, I had someone ask, was fumbles and going to the ground a problem for Doubs in college? No, but he played at Nevada. Speed of the game is different. The force of the game is different. He's going to adjust. He's too good. He's too talented. He's going to adjust. You cannot point to me in history a player who was really talented and did not have major drop issues, which Romeo does not right now because he did not drop the ball. That was not a drop, a hands drop in the end zone. He failed to make the catch. Different to me. You can't find me the receiver. Maybe you can, but they're very rare where the guy just never became a good or above average player because they couldn't survive the ground or because they kept fumbling. Like those guys just aren't really there. That's not really a thing. If you're good, you figure it out. If you're that talented, you're that gifted, and he is that talented and that gifted, he's just going to figure it out. He's a hard worker. He is going to keep working at it until he gets it. I promise you. And this offense, I'm starting to believe it can be better than what we saw last year. Now, 2020 good? Probably not. 2020, they were historically good. 2021, they were just a very good offense. Aaron Rodgers was awesome. Led the league in EPA per play, all that stuff. But they were not as good in 2021 as they were in 2020. I don't think they can get to 2020, but I think they can be as good as they were last year in 2021. And I think they can be more scheme independent in terms of who they face defensively. And I think they can be better equipped for January, potentially, because they can run the ball this way, because I think they're going to be able to protect Aaron Rodgers better when healthy. And they're going to have more answers. I think they have more playmakers, even if they don't have that field tilter, game-changing playmaker at the top the way Davante Adams is. I'm not fully bought in that they can get there or that they will get there this year. I think it's possible they could get there next year. It seems more likely to me that it would be next year than this year, but I have not ruled it out as a possibility. I had all but ruled it out to start the season, to training camp, all that. There's just no way, and it's okay. But now I think there's a possibility, and like a non-zero chance that they can do it, and that possibility seems to be growing every week. All right, before we get to Rashad Jennings, let's talk about a product that I use every day. Seriously, I use it every day. AG1 is something that can change how you feel on a daily basis. Physically change how you feel. And I don't know about you, but I'm constantly trying to improve my daily routine. Am I maximizing what I'm putting into my body, especially to start the day? Am I eating the right things? Am I drinking the right things? Am I making sure I'm nourishing my body the right way? Do I have the right, cleaning products for my face and my skin and my hair and my body? Am I making sure that I'm taking care of it from a nourishment standpoint? And chances are you're not doing great. A lot of us aren't. For much of my life, I wasn't. AG1 makes it easy. Just a scoop of AG1 in water, and you have got something that can get you superfoods, adaptogens, things for brain health, for gut health, for general nutrition and value that way. Better sleep quality, supports mental clarity and alertness. Athletic Greens uses the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. This helps you do the best things for your body every day. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. I have it. It's a little tincture. I take it every day. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Make sure to check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Joining me now, I am very excited to bring in Rashad Jennings, former NFL running back, former New York Football Giant, and co-host of The Bag with Rashad Jennings and Lindsay McCormick on Sports Illustrated, my former stomping grounds. Rashad, it is great to be with you. How are you doing?
Listen, man, Peter, I'm good. It couldn't be any better, honestly. I'm out here in Virginia with the family for a little bit.
Always good to have some time with the family. We've got a lot that I want to get your input on, but there is this. I've been anytime I've had a chance to talk to some players, and I've actually heard from some players since the game. This Tua Tagovailoa situation, I just want to get your input on, especially as someone who, when you played, you had to take a lot of hits. Running back is a brutal position. What kind of responsibility do you think a team has to say, look, I know you're saying you're good, but like, we just have to take this decision out of your hands?
Tons. All of it, actually. You know, when it comes to the responsibility of the team, I say they need to take a majority of it. It's the reason why we love boxing. It's a competitive sport, and 2 athletes are going at it neck and neck, and one gets knocked down, and we can see clear as day it is over. He's going to stand up. He's going to take another couple shots that could really severely hurt him, and he's going to fall back down. And this is why the referees jump in and call it. The match is over, and the player is pissed off, right? Because that's the competitive bone inside of an athlete. He can't help but to compete no matter what. And so that's why they throw in the white towel. Similar situation here. Of course, Tua is going to say he wants to play. He can compete. He's an athlete. He can't help it. Every athlete can't help it. But at some point, you have to take in hindsight and have mature people on the sidelines that are doctors, that will make those tough decisions for the players. So I'm not sure, one, how on God's green earth he even came back into the game to win in the second half versus the Bills there. And then, 2, I don't know how 4 days later he plays another game. So it's two big questions that makes no sense. Of course, they turn around and fire somebody immediately to try to get some type of media cred back.
One of the other questions that I wanted to get your take on, because of the theme of your podcast with Lindsay, is name and likeness has changed a lot for athletes, student athletes. And I think that's been great for college kids who are going to be able to I think this is directly connected to this question of player safety and player health, because in college, these kids are putting their bodies on the line and not getting the sort of compensation that they are due, that they contribute so much to the making of the money in the NCAA. And it shouldn't just all be going to the coaches. I thought it was really interesting. Ed Reed was on Slow News Day with Kevin Clark the other day, and Kevin asked Ed Reed, should Lamar change the way that he plays because he doesn't have a contract? I wonder how you think all of this ties together in terms of the concussion protocols, the team. You understand earlier, I think, than ever, the value that you have as an athlete. Do you think it will change the way guys play?
It has changed the way guys play. When you talk about particularly a guy like Lamar Jackson, it can't change the way he plays, because of what makes him special is that gameplay. But as far as, a running back deciding to not fight for some extra yardage because they see as there's a collision there that is unnecessary. A receiver sliding instead of fighting for extra yards because there's a collision that's unnecessary. Stepping out of bounds instead of lowering the shoulder by QB because it's unnecessary. A slide, like defensive ends deciding to not rush. Like a lot of stuff is predicated on how can I reserve my body for a duration of my contract. So the game is, but at the end of the day, still, like, it's so competitive that those little plays don't make a big difference to the production of the game itself from a fan's view. But inside the locker rooms, yeah, definitely players make business plays sometimes, 100%.
And look, I don't know where you stand on it. I'm fine with it. Guys protecting themselves, and I want to see these guys on the field for as long as possible. I want guys to have long careers. So as long, like, I don't think the game has gotten crazy bad. I don't think it's gotten soft. If you think I'm way off on that, please correct me.
No, I think if players honestly wanted to make a big difference in a collective bargaining agreement, they would play the entire season like they do the Pro Bowl. They get out there, they perform, they have players agreements with each other, and it wouldn't be that physical. That way they can say that they're on the field, they can't get fined. They will perform, just not at a high level, and the fans will be pissed, but it's nothing they can do because they've agreed together. We're gonna play this thing soft until we get paid our due. One day it'll happen. It ain't gonna happen no time soon.
That would be wild. I think it'd be fascinating to see. There's another macro question that I want to ask you before we dive into the Giants as they stand right now. This has been the year of the too high safety look in the NFL. And I think it's why you're seeing teams like Green Bay say, here's AJ Dillon, here's Aaron Jones. We don't think you can stop us with too high safeties. How do you, like, is this a cyclical thing, do you think? Like, is this all of a sudden going to be the sort of return of these downhill run games? Because we're seeing it with the Chiefs too, like that big offensive line. They took it to Tampa on Sunday night. And I'm fascinated to see what comes next. Like, what is the counterpunch? Is this just one step in the next evolution? Or is this something bigger here, do you think?
No, I think, it's early. It's a long season. I think you got to take what somebody gives you. I think that's the easiest way to play ball. It's so evenly. The game right now is so evenly distributed with talent across the board that you can't force your hand. You have to take what somebody's giving you. Whereas I feel like a couple teams have been lopsided over the last 10 years where they just kind of dominated and done what they want. It's not that game anymore. The game is continuing to evolve. If the QB play gets better, well, the DB play gets better. Defensive coordinators have to get better to catch up with all the sling in the football. So, at the end of the day, a run game, every team I've ever been a part of, and just because you're on the same organization each year, you're literally on a different team. Each team at the beginning of the season, the head coach would come out in front of a podium and say something of this nature. Guys, we have to stop the run game and establish the run this year, every single year, because we all know the last 10 Super Bowls, the team that controlled the run game, that ran for the most yards and held the other team for the minimum of rushing yardage has won the Super Bowl. You still have to be able to run the football and stop it at the end of the day. And so I don't think it's a revolution as much as talent is catching up across the board that's forcing regular football.
There was a great line from Mike Patton a couple of years ago. He said, it's quicker to get to Miami in an airplane than to walk.
100%.
And that was his way of saying you will get beat faster if you give up plays through the air. And that's why everyone's saying, all right, put a roof on it. And if they want to go 12 plays, 80 yards, God bless. Go 12 plays, 80 yards. We think you're going to make a mistake. You're going to get a holding penalty. We're going to get a TFL. We're going to put you in a position where you have to try and throw it. And then we have the advantage. And I can tell you this for sure. It's frustrating a lot of Packer fans who are watching this team. They have been a top 10 passing defense all season, and they have been a bottom 10 run defense all season. And it is wildly frustrating. And yet it nets out. They're a top 10 defense because passing is just a bigger share of the game now than it used to be. For the Giants, that sort of plays into who they want to be, right? Saquon Barkley looks, I don't know, all the way back. How does Saquon look to you?
First of all, he looks outstanding, man. And first of all, I have to debunk that analogy that you heard. It's quicker to fly to Miami than to run. That doesn't correlate to football, because what's happening is it would have to correlate that flight is in the air long enough for somebody to run and get underneath it. See what I mean? And so that analogy is debunked. That's not how football works. Just because you can throw something in the air, somebody literally has to run fast enough to get under it. So it goes hand in hand. But yeah, Saquon Barkley, man, he's back to his rare form. He's exactly who was drafted. It's the talent that was drafted. It's the person that was drafted. It's the person that his first play in the NFL made everybody drop their jaw. It's Saquon Barkley, and so I'm glad to see him healthy, especially in that media market in New York, man, because it can put you on a microscope and almost make you question yourself sometimes. But I think they're headed in the right direction, and I love the head coach who has a defensive mindset. And it's going to help out that offense so much. So I like where the Giants are headed this year.
I want to ask you about that, Coach. I'm so glad you brought him up. Brian Daboll was a guy that I had circled for the last 2 years as someone who, if I were starting at an NFL team, I would I want this guy. Maybe not number one on the list, but he's on the short list. And what I think is most impressive to me is it just seemed like he flipped that culture on its ear immediately. And, he inviting the first responders, and he's got the FDNY hat, and he's just all in on, we're gonna be back to being the New York. I made this sort of joke at the top, the New York Football Giants. So what do you think he's brought to this team?
He's brought back a grid, like a gridiron type of football mentality. Defensive coaches that have a passion tend to do that to football teams. And he's a combination of those both. He's a player's coach too. Guys love him. You can see how he responded to their first win in the locker room. And that tells you everything. From a player standpoint, being in the locker room, I know that type of vibe. And he's the type of coach that players enjoy playing for. And that's not a bad thing. I think players still can perform at a high level with coaches they don't like. They can perform at a high level with teammates they don't like. But when they are together, boy, does it make a big difference.
I mentioned the podcast that you host at the top, The Bag with Rashad Jennings and Lindsey McCormick. What can fans expect from that, and why should my listeners take a listen to that? Which you should, by the way.
The Bag. Yeah, you should definitely pop over, listen to The Bag. The Bag is a podcast in which Lindsey and myself bring on different guests, both athletes and non-athletes, entrepreneurs and business, to talk about the intersection of business and sports. It's very interesting to see how much they merge together. And also we've been able to kind of dive into how these athletes have gotten to their bag outside of the sport that they played for various years, and, catch up with some of the guys and see what they had in life. I tell you what, I've got so much business advice on this podcast personally that I've implemented already. And I think, everybody can come over for a free listen to see to how they can implement some of this advice too.
Former Packers corner and return man Will Blackman was on the show talking about his wine journey, how Charles Woodson inspired him. So start with that episode, and I bet you will listen to more. Rashad, I appreciate you coming on today. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks to Rashad for joining the show. Awesome to talk with him. Really interesting guy. Had a great time talking. We talked for 10, 15 minutes off the pod afterward, because he just liked talking ball, which is great. We talked about the 2016 playoff game. We talked about Boatgate. He was not on the boat, by the way. I immediately regretted not asking about it, because I told him, I said, I didn't want to put you on his tough spot. I didn't want to ask you about it. He said, I would have asked. I would have answered it. So we'll have to get him back. We'll have to get him back. Maybe the Giants sneak into the playoffs and it's like one of those 2-7 matchups, and we get to do this all over again. That would be really great. Today's episode brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for all of your betting info this season. Did not have a great week 4, this guy. Had a really good week 3. And I'm sort of right there at even for the season, but feeling good, feeling like I'm starting to have a feel for what's going on around the league. And so that means I'm going to be spending a lot more time at BetOnline. the fastest and easiest way to check out all of your favorite games and events. They've got baseball playoffs coming, boxing, golf, MMA. NBA preseason's already here. NBA regular season right around the corner. Head to BetOnline to use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, back tomorrow. Zhao Yu doing on the docket. Our crossover Thursday with Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants, who is in the building every day. She is awesome. No one covers that beat better than she does. So looking forward to that conversation with her. And then have a little surprise for you on Friday. We will have a podcast on Friday. It will not be a live show on Friday, but we will be live after the London game on Sunday, even though I will be in parts unknown for a bachelor party. And it is going to be very early in the morning where I am. So this is what I do. This is what I do and what I love to do. And even if it hurts sometimes, and it might hurt on Sunday, that for reasons that have nothing to do with the Packers. So I guess the TLDR of that is please no 27-24 overtime stuff. Take care of the Giants because that's what should happen. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to hit us up on the Locked On Packers fan hotline, you can do that, 920-341-3775. Stay Locked On Packers.